Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Family Meal Podcast. My name is Grace. Thank you so much for tuning in. If I sound like I'm recording this through a potato, it's because I do have quite a bit of congestion this morning. But the good thing is, it seems like it's allergies and not COVID. So, with that being said, we're going to get right into today's episode. We have some exciting news to talk about today. You may have heard that sometime last week, Governor Phil Murphy announced that New Jersey will be able to open for indoor dining. And so that means this podcast is over. Thank you so much for all of your love and support throughout this time. And that's it. Bye forever. I am just kidding. We have so much more to talk about. So anyway, we're going to be talking a little bit about the new rules, what this is going to look like, what my thoughts are on this reopening process, and what we're looking at going forward. So we officially opened for indoor dining on Friday, just in time for Labor Day weekend. I reviewed a lot of the rules on New Jersey's COVID-related website. So the big kicker here, the big new rule, is that you can open at 25% capacity with a maximum of 8 customers per table. The 8 customers per table isn't new, but obviously the 25% capacity is. It was kind of what we expected. We assumed it was going to be a quarter capacity, because it was trying to walk that fine line between what is kind of worth opening for, but also what is safe. So 25% capacity is not a lot, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So this also will allow other indoor kind of venues to open, such as like theaters and movie theaters, which is cool, I guess. Again, at a lower capacity, with space in between all patrons. Like, I know at movie theaters there has to be like 6 feet in between everybody, but you can sit with people that you came with or you bought tickets with, so that's weird. Keep doors and windows open where possible and utilize fans to improve ventilation. This is slightly different than the rule that is still in place. So we had it before where if you were a restaurant with a fixed roof, but you could open 2 of your 4 walls completely to the outside, you could operate as if it was outdoor dining, like it counted as outdoor dining. So it seems that if you still do fall under that category, if you can open 2/4 of your wall space, you may operate still under the current rules for outdoor dining, which haven't changed. But other than that, if you don't qualify under that, which I don't even know what kind of building can you open 2/4 of the walls. Like, I was thinking about it, and in every situation I played out in my head, I just kept picturing the roof like falling in between. Like, I just kept picturing the roof just like tipping. But if you don't fall under that, you do have to keep your doors and windows open where possible, utilize fans, turn on your AC, keep the air moving, and basically, other than that, the rules are just like your patrons have to stay at their table the entire time they're there. You seat them, and then they don't get up. Don't take their order. Don't get them food unless they are seated. Don't let them order a drink unless they are seated at a table. And it seems that it didn't say this explicitly, but when I was reading the rules, it kind of made it sound like they want customers to wear their masks pretty much the entire time they're inside, up until the point where they have to put food or drink in their mouth. That was just kind of my reading of it. It was saying like, patrons should keep their masks on until they start eating. Like, it was something like that made me think they can't tell you have to leave it on unless you're putting a fork to your mouth, but it seemed to be what they were implying. So that's pretty much all the rules. It's nothing really unexpected or different. It did say cordon off any indoor or outdoor dance floors, which I was like, bummer. Did anybody have those open? But anyway, so a lot of people are asking, is this too little, too late? I've been seeing some comments from people saying like, well, it's not even really worth it to open at 25% capacity, but I think for a lot of businesses that have been closed since March, 25% capacity is better than nothing, so they'll take it. It's maybe just worth doing for them. If they have a really big, indoor dining space, you could probably get, the customers you would get at a small restaurant in there. So, who cares? I mean, it may not be what you're used to making, but it might be enough to keep the lights on and keep the doors open. So, you don't need as much staff if you're only at 25% capacity. So maybe it's worth doing, just to keep yourself open and alive. But I really think it's going to be a case-by-case basis. For some places, it's going to be great, especially if you don't have any outdoor space and you haven't been able to be open. And for a lot of places, this may not be worth it at all. This may just be like, well, we're doing okay with outdoor dining for now. We'll cross this indoor dining bridge when winter comes. But it's not really worth us switching right now to indoor dining suddenly, especially once you consider a lot of the added risk that comes with indoor dining and the added sanitation, just by virtue of the fact that you're all now breathing in a closed space. Even though there's plenty of sanitation if you're doing outdoor dining anyway. So, some people feel like, is it too little too late? But then at the same time, since last Monday, we have had 352 new cases in New Jersey. So this could really be too much too soon. And I know that was Governor Phil Murphy's worries. I sound like such a Phil Murphy fan, and I'm not necessarily a fanatic. I mean, I think he's doing an okay job. I like him, but I keep saying, I feel like I sound like I'm really advocating for Phil Murphy, and I don't necessarily mean to. But, we still are seeing rises in our cases. I know that he originally wanted restaurants to open June 22nd, and then he was like, just kidding. There's still too many new cases all the time. We are not opening indoor dining. Y'all can't be responsible. Stop it. And that was after like a bunch of people went down the shore. And he was like, no, stop it. So, we still are seeing increases in cases. So he's pushed it from June up until now. We are in September. I think he kind of knows he's also working against the clock and working against businesses pressuring him and saying, we are going to close forever if you can't let us open. So that being said, though, I really think restaurants are going to do their best to do everything right, because at the end of the day, just because we've reopened, quote unquote, it doesn't mean we'll stay reopened. We could reclose, if you think about it. So, restaurants know that. They know that their livelihood is on the line. They're not just going to be like, oh, whatever, everything's fine now, the pandemic's over. I think they are taking it really seriously, especially a lot of what I've been reading online is that they are taking it very seriously because they don't want to screw this up for themselves and for their staff. Because, there's a very real possibility that any day this could all shut down just, indefinitely. And that may not even be due to restaurants reopening. It could be due to movie theaters reopening. It could be due to, restaurants reopening and Labor Day weekend are happening at the same time. And I know the Shore just said, oh, we're extending beach season through Labor Day weekend. So there could be a ton of people that were down the shore this weekend. I don't know. I haven't looked. I don't really want to look. Mostly because I'm jealous. I didn't get to go down the shore this year. But, it could be, because people were down the shore, because of movie theaters, because of other indoor businesses, but restaurants will still get punished. So I think they are taking it really seriously on their end to ensure that this reopening lasts, so that instead of reclosing, we can continue to increase our capacity as we get closer to the winter. So far, just some of the first kind of reports I've heard about people doing indoor dining and how it's been going is that it's been a lot slower than a lot of people thought it was going to be. I mean, I think there was kind of this feeling that maybe once you opened indoor dining, kind of you would at least be able to fill at 25% capacity. But if you've been listening to other episodes of this podcast, you know that I have been complaining that, yeah, but people don't want to eat out the same way anymore. People are freaked. So I think they're not being as much people as people. They're not being as much people as people. Not having as many patrons as businesses expected has to do with a couple things. I think it can primarily be attributed to the really nice weather we've been having. Like, if you have indoor and outdoor dining, we've had really nice weather this past weekend. I totally, COVID or not COVID, would have wanted to sit outside. So it's that beautiful end of summer weather where it's warm and the sun is still warm, but it's also a little bit cool and you're not hot, you're not sticky. So I think that could be one big thing. But But, this may be an indicator that people are reluctant to eat inside after such a long break from it and being made so aware of the risks it posed. It's one thing if a restaurant has indoor and outdoor dining, because then you've kind of attacked all aspects of the market, right? People can come to your restaurant, and if they feel fine eating inside, they can go inside. And if they don't feel fine eating inside, they can go outside. But if you only have indoor seating, which I know is the case for plenty of restaurants in my area, that limits you, because your customer base that's going to come and eat there is now only the people who feel A, like they want to eat there, and B, like they're fine eating inside, which, I know there's certainly plenty of people who don't feel that that's very risky, but I know there's a lot of people who do feel like that's very risky. I personally wouldn't feel great eating inside right now. I mean, if it was a restaurant I had been to a lot of times, I knew was doing the right thing, I really trusted, I'd be like, you know what, sure, but I would be very reluctant about it. And I've even just saying that right now, I was like, oh, I don't think I would do it. Like, I can't even think of a restaurant that feels worth it right now. And there's a lot of restaurants I want to go to, but I can't think of one that really feels like worth it to eat inside, even at 25% capacity, just because it's so enclosed. But then again, I can say that because it's a lovely 75 degrees outside and sunny today. It's not 30 degrees, in which case I might feel a little bit differently about wanting to eat outside when it's 32 degrees and I'm shivering and there's snow on the ground. Yeah, then I might be like, screw it, I'm just going to eat inside. So we never really know. I think it's fair to say that Murphy really had a tough call to make here. Like I said, he wanted to reopen in June. That got pushed a couple of times. I think that made the whole situation much more contentious, much nastier. He wanted to help businesses and get them back on track, but he didn't want to do that at the expense of getting, more people sick and spreading the pandemic. So, a lot of Jersey business owners have been saying they're losing business to surrounding states who reopened sooner or with higher capacities. And I guess that's true. Like, I guess people are probably going into New York or going to Philly. If you're not from the tri-state area, they're very close. We do intermingle very frequently. But I also feel like I don't know many people who would do that, like, just for lunch. Like, I wouldn't drive to Philly just for lunch. That's like 2 hours. And I know there's parts of Jersey that are closer, but it's still, like, kind of out of the way, So all of that to say that even though you might have, during these past 6 months where we've been closed, lost business, I don't think you've permanently lost that business to Philly or to New York, because those were always there. If people wanted to go to New York for a particular reason, they could have always gone. But you had the priority by convenience, right? You were the most convenient geographic option, so they would come to you. And now that you're back in business, you still have that, geographic advantage, which I think is even more of an advantage in COVID, because who really wants to go into major cities right now? Like, I don't know about you, but like, major cities sound disgusting. I have not been to New York since, well, for a long time, but I wanted to go when I came home for spring break, and then like this happened. I was like, no, just kidding. And I haven't even, no time has that crossed my mind as the thing to do. Like, oh, I'll just go into the city, like, yeah, and take the subway. No, gross. So I really sound like a germaphobe on this podcast, don't I? And like, I'm not saying I'm not very hygienic, but like, I really sound like a germaphobe, and I don't mean to. But just realistically, do I really want to go into a city like just for lunch? Like, no, that's kind of a lot. Do I really want to put myself at that big of a risk just for lunch? No, not really, not even for dinner. So I think I totally understand their feeling that they've lost that business during this time, but I don't think that's permanent. I think once we reopen, the geographic convenience, especially because you don't have to travel at all, will outweigh they're at bigger capacities and they've been open longer, and whatever. I think that'll all level out now that we're reopening. But the pressure is really on Murphy, because he's working against Mother Nature's clock here. If the cold weather hits, and listen, in Jersey, we can see snow as early as October sometimes, okay? We haven't in recent years, which is reassuring. But, anything can happen in 2020. So, we could very well start seeing really cold weather in late October. I'm talking like 40 degrees, So if once that cold weather really starts to settle in, we're still at 25% capacity, so now all indoor dining is pretty much shut down because no one's going to want to do it, or very few people are going to want to do it. It's going to be a really long winter for many, many restaurants, because now through what might normally be one of your most profitable times of year, the holiday season, you are now at 25% capacity. And just to do a little quick math here, so you've been closed, let's assume you don't have any outdoor dining space, you've been closed for the past 6 months. And now for the next 4 months of the year, if you can only open at 25% capacity, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that means you make 1 month worth of profit. Like you pretty much make what you would have made in 1 month, because if all 4 months you're only making 25% of what you normally would have, if let's say in normal times you filled to capacity, you're basically making what you would have made in 1 month. And that's what you've made pretty much from March till December. That's horrifying. That's financially a nightmare. And that gave me like chills thinking about it. That's really a horrifying thought. So like I said, it could be a long winter. Now, hopefully, if opening at 25% capacity goes really well, as it gets colder, we can bump up the capacity. But, I said it in the beginning of this podcast, and I will say it again. We have a long reopening ahead of us, folks, and one that might get better and then get worse, and 2 steps forward and then 1 step back, kind of a thing. I could really see that being a possibility. So anyway, it's going to be really interesting to see how this reopening goes this week, the week after, and how customers are reacting to it. I'll be really keeping my ear to the ground about that. My restaurant actually decided not to open for indoor dining for a lot of different reasons, primarily because we have a really, really huge outdoor dining space and very limited indoor space. So we can safely have more people outside than we can inside. And we can't do both because we can't handle that large of a capacity in one night. So we also just ordered a bunch of outdoor heat lamps to kind of put in our outdoor dining area to hopefully that'll take the edge off until we get through, just to get us through October. But, once November and December hits, it's over. It's like, no one's going to sit outside in the snow or in the cold or in the wind. It's going to get nasty. So yeah, this is going to be a really interesting thing to follow, I think. I'm very excited to hear how people react to it. I hope that, as always, I hope nothing for the best for my fellow restaurant businesses. I hope that if you only have indoor dining capacity, I hope this goes well for you. I know you're doing your best. We're all in this together. So I hope this goes well. I hope it's successful and people don't get sick and people can finally kind of regain some normalcy in their lives as they're, venturing out to the brave new world. So that is all I have to talk about for today. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. Please go out and support your local restaurants in any way that you feel comfortable doing, whether that's takeout, that's outdoor, that's indoor dining, whatever you feel comfortable doing. And as always, please be kind to your local service industry workers, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.